From TRICHOMES.com, I'm Jason Kitamura, and this is Tech and Cannabis. I talk with game changers in the tech community to gain valuable insights into the future of the fast-paced cannabis industry. Today, we are joined by Nick Tennant of Precision Extraction Solutions. Nick is a leading authority on extraction technology and utilized his knowledge to architect a one-stop shop solution for extraction and lab development. We talk about his company recently being acquired by Agrify, the future of extraction, and how they are positioned to be a dominant force in the industry. Yeah, so this is Nick Tennant, co-founder of Precision Extraction Solutions. Thanks for coming on to the show.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Sorry, looks like we're having some internet technical difficulties, but hopefully we can get through this. But I got a confession to make. I mean, hopefully you can hear this. I've been in tech for a long time, and doing this podcast, we're talking to a lot of different types of tech, and especially extraction. I didn't have too much experience with. So pretty much all the extraction knowledge I have is from watching your YouTube videos.
Oh, cool.
I gotta tell you that.
I'm glad I could help. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
putting out a whole cache of content here. So I think this year we'll put out over 100 pieces. I'm sorry, in 2022, our plan is to put out over 100 pieces of rich media content. So it should be substantially impactful for the industry.
Yeah, I mean, to tell you, when I was doing my research, I went through a lot of different videos, a lot of different people. Your videos are by far the most digestible and the most informative. So, I mean, good job.
I appreciate that a lot.
Those videos are awesome. How did you become such an authority and so knowledgeable about extraction? It's a very specialized field. How did that
Yeah, well, I've been in it a long time. More specifically, I've been in cannabis a long time. So I've actually been in cannabis now for 17 years. I started back in 2006, 2005 with some family that was in California and Colorado. And in 2008, we passed our law here in Michigan. So really got full-time heavily into the business in 2008. And we did pretty much everything, right? I've done retail, I've done in large-scale grow, I've done outdoor cultivation, greenhouse cultivation, edibles, and we did a little bit of extracts back then. But more particularly, about 8 years ago, give or take, we saw the trend going towards extracts, right? At the time, there really wasn't a retail infrastructure, but the retail infrastructure that was up, you could see the flower market share being eroded, and you could see extracts really taking not necessarily a dominant place, but substantially uptrending in terms of consumer habits. And at that time, I looked at the technology that they were using to make these extracts, and they were very primitive, right? Like I had made water hash before that. I had made, bag bubble hash or CO2 bag bubble hash. We'd even made like hydrocarbon extracts with butane tubes and things like that. And obviously made a lot of edibles and even some ethanol hash we had made. But the technology was extremely primitive, right? So I started looking at it from really a science-based standpoint. Like, what are we trying to do? What molecules are we trying to isolate? How is this solvent dissolving the key constituents of this plant? And how do we make a better methodology in order to do this? So that's exactly what we did. Back in 2013, I came up with the first prototype version of the PX1. And since then, we've grown the company to a product suite of over 400 products and obviously, 60 something employees now. Agrify, our parent company, has a total over 120 employees. Our extraction division will do close to $45 million this year. And, we're really on a great pace with a great team and great products. So that always makes things a lot easier.
Yeah, and your parent company, just congratulations. Just recently you guys got acquired by Agrify, correct?
We did, yeah. We closed the deal in October. It was a long road to close deals, as many of these things often are. But it was positive, I think, for everyone all around, right? Now we're very, very well resourced. We can continue to scale the company.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, I mean, like I was saying before, your knowledge on extraction is pretty out there. I mean, compared to most, it's you're like to me, you're the authority. Whenever I need to find out something, I search for some of your videos to explain it to me. So yeah, that's awesome. So I mean, I'm asking the right person. I think that I've talked to lots of different extraction, companies that have new products, and everybody has their own opinions on like CO2 extraction and ethanol extraction. I
Sure.
mean, where do you see kind of the future? Like, what's kind of going to be the staple in the next boom? Because the cannabis industry is just going to get huge. Larger companies are going
Sure.
to start needing these machines. Which route do you think they're going to be taking?
Well, I think we have to back out a little bit from that question just to give it some context, right? And we have to think
Yeah.
about the cannabis plant as a whole. And the cannabis plant as a whole can be really compared to craft wine, craft beer, things like that, right? Because each genetic, as you probably well know, and most of the listeners well know, each genetic is different. And often, in most of the cases, we're trying to capture the unique attributes of each one of those individual genetics. So my personal belief and a lot of belief of a lot of people in the industry is that cannabis is going to continue to be a craft artisanal product, right? So the natural essence of the plant is going to want to be captured, concentrated, and made into consumer products for the majority of the market, I would say, in terms of extract, right? Of course, there's going to be companies that make high volume distillate and they make edibles and things like that, but really the craft, I believe, will dominate the market. So when we look at that sort of thesis of the craft cannabis dominating the market, we really look at how do we concentrate the native components of a particular strain so that it is unadulterated, it doesn't have any sort of byproduct, and it's really a concentrated representation of that particular genetic. So those methodologies, really, it comes down to hydrocarbon and it comes down to water hash, or ice hash, different forms of cryo hash. But what we're talking about is a mechanical separation of those trichomes from the actual cannabis plant, or from the cellular composure of the cannabis plant. We're just separating the trichomes and concentrating them. So I really see hydrocarbon holding an extremely dominant marketplace because you can make the live resins, you can make the butters, the shatters, the waxes, the terp sauce, you can do high terpene extract, all sorts of artisanal products with those. I also see water hash and subsequently the rosin and post-processed rosin taking even a larger market share over the last year. Things like CO2 and ethanol definitely have their place. So CO2, generally, most people in the industry don't use it. It's about a 5% product niche, maybe, if that. And it's because CO2, it's just not a great solvent for what we're trying to achieve, right? It's very low solubility. To get a higher solubility with CO2, you need to operate upwards of 5,000 psi. You need to run the material at certain temperatures. You need to run the solvent over the material dozens and dozens and dozens of times in order to actually get that extract. Whereas with hydrocarbon, we do a simple soak for 3 to 5 minutes and we have exactly what we're trying to extract from the plant. With ethanol, there's definitely a place for ethanol too. But remember, ethanol is really an inferior solvent when it comes to the chemistry of extracting cannabinoids relative to butane, propane, and other hydrocarbons. It is a superior solvent for the fact that we're able to scale, right? Because ethanol, you can have obviously massive volumes of ethanol in a building without hitting hazardous occupancy rating. It's not the same with butane and propane because they're readily flammable. They're what's called a group D hydrocarbon or a group D flammable solvent, which means they're going to vaporize readily in air. They have a very low level in the air that needs to be achieved for combustibility, where ethanol doesn't flame up or it doesn't have that risk of combustibility as high. So you can have substantially more ethanol in a facility, which means if we're a facility that's going to process 3, 4, 5,000 pounds a day and we're going to go straight to distillate, we don't care about the quality of our biomass, and we're not trying to achieve the native essence of the original cannabis plant. We're just trying to do volume, turn it into distillate, reconstitute that into edibles or some sort of re-terpene mix and do like a economy type vape pen. There's a place for that too. And I think that'll be maybe, distillate's a big portion of the market. It'll probably be 30%, right? But I still think that the dominant portion will be artisanal type products from the native genetics that are just so sought over, right? And when you look at the best brands in cannabis, they're ultimately they're genetic brands, right? Like they go on a mission to acquire the best genetics. They brand them to the highest degree possible, and that's really what makes their brand, right? Besides the marketing.
No, it makes sense. No, it's interesting that you know you're predicting more of the um, you know kind of the smaller brands, kind of just the mass amount of different types of products that people are going to be looking for is probably going to outweigh the individual big companies. And I think you're right. I think that's kind of the trend we're looking on.
Yep.
I mean, as far as your guys' company, you know, now being acquired, having more resources, what's in the horizon for you guys? I know you guys were, you know, at first just mostly doing the extraction machines and things like that, but you do like labs, you do
Yep.
education training, you do all
We
sorts of
do.
things. Like, what's kind of the next play for you guys?
Yeah, so really what we're trying to build here is an end-to-end infrastructure solution for the cannabis industry, right? So we've got two key components. We've got the cultivation on the Agrify side and all the cultivation controls, et cetera. And we've got the
Yep.
end-to-end extraction on the precision side. On top of that, our company is extremely well resourced. Obviously, we have a lot of cash on our balance sheet and we're able to finance particular projects if we want, right? So we have all of the resources to be able to stand up the infrastructure. But the idea is that one of these large companies, I'll give you an example. One of these MSOs, in order to set up a lab, if there wasn't a precision, they'd have to deal with 15 different vendors, right? That means
Right.
15 different POs, 15 different people that you're managing, 15 different packages that you're tracking, 15 different people that have to come to your site to install and train in your facility and get all this symphony of infrastructure up and working, right? So you can imagine the complexity. And I'm just giving an arbitrary example of extraction. So you can
For
imagine the
sure.
complexity that lies within when you're trying to do a vertically integrated end-to-end facility. When you're looking at, packaging, drying, biomass preparation, you're looking at genetic control, you're looking at all of the cultivation aspects, you're looking at packaging, all of the compliance and CGMP stuff that's coming down the line, training all your employees, right? This is the single biggest hurdle for anybody coming into the cannabis industry, and our company is the premier company to provide that solution. Now we have the solution, like I said, for extraction and cultivation. You can probably use your imagination without me saying too much about probably the other areas that we're looking to build that infrastructure. And ultimately,
Right.
our goal is to provide that end-to-end turnkey one-stop shop solution and really be a key component of our client's success, because ultimately, they've got to nail this portion of it, right? They have to get their infrastructure up and running and their employees trained. And one of the biggest things that you see is, yes, the MSOs have a lot of money, right? They have a ton of money, they have a ton of resources. But that doesn't directly translate into being able to stand up this infrastructure that I've described efficiently or effectively or in a timely manner, right? They need people like us that have been in this for a decade, that have done thousands of these facilities, and that can really go out there and turn the keys for them so that they're ready to go and they stand up these facilities and they're profitable within months, not years.
Yeah, I mean, so that comes a question that I've been wanting to ask you as well, since you know, with all the experience that you have and what you're saying about the efficiencies, you know, so for all the companies that are listening, you know, if they're in the business of extraction, like, what, how much difference in profitability can you see from somebody who basically, you know, doesn't really know what they're doing? Maybe they're using the wrong method, the wrong equipment, the wrong, you know, processes. You know, they could optimize it a lot better
Sure.
versus somebody who's you know, specced out exactly to like something that you guys would set up for them. Like, how much difference can you see in yields and profit
Yeah,
between
I
the two?
mean, it's hard to give an exact number on that, but
Yeah,
what I can
for sure.
definitely tell you is that there's been a lot of labs that have failed. There's been a lot of processors that have failed, and there's been a lot of grows that have failed, right? So when we look at, people that either don't do their due diligence, are not business savvy, or particularly in this case, it's not hiring experts, right? Whether
Hmm.
it's Precision or Agrify or somebody else, you have to absolutely enlist experts. There's this general consensus in the business world that people are going to go into cannabis and they're going to become, decamillionaires overnight. And it's
Right.
not the case, right? It's simply not the case.
Yeah.
Cannabis is really like any other business. You need to focus on your fundamentals. You need to know your market. You need to know your clients. You need to know what product types. You need to have a product strategy. You need to build the infrastructure to support your product strategy. You have to be well funded, right? These are all business fundamentals that you have to adhere to. And just because you're in cannabis and the margins may be larger or more accretive than another business doesn't mean that it just, you throw all caution to the wind, right? It should be like anything else. Like if you and I were going to go into, like processing corn, right? The first thing I would do is hire a corn processing consultant and say, what is the best, most efficient way to do this? How can I be profitable? How do I understand the market? And that's what Precision's here for, right? So absolutely, no, they don't have to hire us. There's other consultants in the industry that are knowledgeable. But again, we are the only solution that is a one-stop shop, right? It's a reminder that we actually, we can take a pile of dirt all the way from a concept all the way to completion, meaning you have a fully functional, fully built production laboratory. Similarly, with Agrify, they can do the same thing with cultivation, right? So we're aiming to do this with the entire infrastructure of cannabis that these vertically integrated operators need.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty incredible. So I mean, so you're saying that there's pretty much no one out there that can do it one stop. I mean, you're going to have to jump around from different vendors and different.
Absolutely. And it raises the execution risk, right? For the MSOs or whomever's on the other end, it raises the execution risk. It's more layers of complexity within your business. And remember, they're dealing with other stuff. They're dealing with acquisitions. They're dealing with investor relations. They're dealing with all sorts of other stuff. The last thing that they want to do is allocate a substantial portion of their management team's resources to ensuring that the little details of their infrastructure of a facility that they acquired in another state is going to run smoothly and profitably.
Gotcha. I mean, really what you're doing is, you're making the barrier of entry just much simpler for people who want to get into the business. I guess before, you would have to either know somebody that knew, who to call, or, you'd have to be deep in the trenches yourself to figure out how to put these things together. You're just making it so, there's going to be more players that have the ability to get involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
That being said, I mean, for your guys' company, what's kind of like your perfect client? Like, who do you guys target the most? Are you looking for more of the startup who are just kind of getting going, or more of the established company kind of redo what they're doing? Where's kind of your bread and butter fall?
Well, look, we help everybody, right? So it doesn't matter if you're a multi-billion-dollar MSO or somebody that's spending a couple $100,000 with us because you're a startup and you have dreams and aspirations of being a multi-billion-dollar MSO. We're going to treat you the same, right? You're not going to get preferential treatment either way. We're going to give you the adequate resources that you need to succeed regardless of your situation. In terms of the mix of our clients, we have about 85 to 90% of the MSOs are our clients right now, right? So if they have a publicly listed ticker, you can probably bet that they're our clients. That makes up about 40% of our business, give or take. The rest of our business is spread between large-scale industrial manufacturers or white labelers, and then niche processors and startups, right? Which is probably split that other 60%, like 30-30 or something like that. So, the large scale processors, they typically use ethanol. They do high volumes. They're over 1,000 pounds a day. They're typically running volume and white labeling and packaging products for other brands. And, they have a massive production line that it hums, right? The other guys, they may be small scale hydrocarbon, still making a substantial amount of money and still doing well with their brands, but they could be vertically integrated. They could be single state operators with ambitions of going multi-state. They could be, niche entities that are micro businesses that are making certain products. That's about 30% of our business.
No, that's awesome. I mean, everything sounds like it's going well for you guys' company. Again, congratulations on that acquisition. For people listening that want to learn more about your company, what's the best way to do that?
Sure. So we're publicly traded. Agrify's symbol is AGFY. If you want to learn more about us, obviously, as you kind of said before, Jason, you can visit Precision Extraction's YouTube. Just go to YouTube, type in Precision Extraction. You can see all sorts of different videos. Agrify actually also has a podcast that we publish. You can listen to me on there and some other people from our company. David Kessler, our Chief Science Officer, absolutely brilliant man, pleasure to listen to. And then, you can obviously visit us on the web, agrify.com, precisionextraction.com. You can give us a call. You can email us. We're pretty easy to find, pretty easy to get in touch with. We rank really well on all SEO, so I'm sure you can track us down if you want to find us.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, we look forward to more of your videos coming out. Again, you saved me a lot of work just by having some of those videos out. So
Awesome.
Thank you for that.
Awesome.
And thanks for coming on to the show. It was great talking to you.
Likewise, man. Appreciate it.
Once again, I want to thank Nick Tennant with Precision Extraction Solutions for coming on to the show, and for all your cannabis news and for other podcasts like this one. Visit us at www.trichomes.com. If you want to write to the show, you can email us at techandcannabis@trichomes.com. I'm Jason Kitamura. Thanks for joining us.